Welcome back. Continuing our Long Beach Water Special, joined now by Anatole Falagan, who's the Deputy General Manager of Business for Long Beach Water. Welcome, Anatole.
Thank you very much.
I understand rates have looked good from the consumer standpoint.
Yes, they do. Long Beach is in a position again to say that we have some of the lowest rates in the state for the large cities here in California. And recently, there was a survey done of the largest cities in the country. Long Beach is in the top 50. And when it comes to water rates, we're one of the lowest amongst the top 10 in the nation for low water rates and sewer rates.
So among the 50 largest cities in America, we're 9th lowest in water rates. And among the largest cities in the state of California, we are the lowest.
Absolutely.
And what do we attribute that to?
Well, trying to manage a precious resource like this calls for some prudent budget management. And we're in the budget process right now, and we're wrapping up this part of the year where we recommend to our board the coming year's budget. We crunched the numbers, and it looks like, again, we can absorb our costs increases that we're facing, and we recommended to our board that we can go for another year of no rate increase. That's the recommendation we've made to them.
That's great. And just for the record, the Water Department has a board of water commissioners that set the policy, including rates.
That's right.
And Frank Clark is the president of that board. And we're taping the show on June 1st. The board will be meeting on June 21st. So by the time this airs, you will know whether the board accepted the staff's recommendations, which I think is more often likely. Yes.
We think they will. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the things that drive costs? Obviously, the cost to you of buying water is one of the things.
Yes, like you heard, groundwater is our cheapest resource, but we can't meet all of our demands through groundwater, so we have to do the extra part and buy imported water, which is pretty expensive. Sometimes in our budget, we can find that imported water can take up about 25% of our entire budget, just simply purchasing that water.
Wow.
That's why we try to conserve and drive those costs down too.
So conservation is an important element with regard to rates, in a sense.
It is, because to the extent that you conserve, it allows us to conserve that most expensive part of our budget, which is the imported water.
That's the last thing. You start with the groundwater and you build other things. And the very last water that you have to buy for the guy or gal that leaves the water on the shower or something, that's the most expensive water. So you want to eliminate that.
As much as we can, that's right. Although that cost still goes up because of Met's price increase.
Do you charge your users based on different tiers on their usage?
Yes, we have what we call a conservation-oriented rate structure, which is one of the critical things for agencies in the state of California. So we have 3 tiers. And the more you use, the more expensive it gets.
And that seems fair. So your base allocation is the lowest rate, and then you add on to it, it becomes more expensive.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you've been with the agency now for 5 years, Anatole. What's your impressions of this agency?
I think one of the most amazing things about the Long Beach Water Department is how progressive an agency it is, not only in the state, but people need to understand how progressive it is across the country as well. Things like that rate structure you talked about, being the leader in conservation and trying to push that so that people actually change the way they use water. It really is progressive, and you have to step out of Long Beach and listen to other people talk about it, and you suddenly realize what a great place Long Beach is.
And until you don't have it, again, people can take it for granted, but Southern California is really desert, and without these massive aquifers and aqueducts bringing water, there would be no LA.
Yeah, it's an interesting place where we live in. We depend on aqueducts, but conservation and the conservation that we've done in Long Beach proves out that we can live very well in California managing this precious resource.
Now, you went to Stanford. Did you study water when you were in college?
I did. Water was the one thing that I seem to understand better than some of those other engineering topics.
So having quality staff members, Kevin, like Anatole, is certainly an asset.
We have a great staff. We really are very fortunate. We've been
How many people work at Long Beach?
We have about 220 total employees.
Wow.
And we do the sewers too. That's a smaller part, but about 20-25% of our staff is on the sewer side. About 75% is the water department.
What prompted you to get into water professionally?
Well, like I said, you go to school and you see all these different topics and you try to see which one maybe that you truly understand, because It's engineering, and water was something that I connected to all along. I started in flood control and then moved on into water supply when I came to California and started working for the Metropolitan Water District.
And then you went on, you got an MBA at Irvine.
Yes, because I needed to understand other aspects, because if not, I didn't know that just engineering alone was going to do it for me.
So water is really very complicated, even though it's obviously a basic commodity and element, but it is a complicated supply chain and,
Yes.
and sourcing.
Just talking about water can take you into all kinds of areas, whether it's economics, whether it's law, and then the typical things that we think about in terms of getting the water to the faucet, so the engineering side too.
And like with most subjects, there's a right way to do things and a wrong way, and it becomes very economically beneficial to do things the right way, as Long Beach Water is doing.
That's right. I think if you read the newspapers day in, day out over the past few years, you hear things about giant rate increases all across the state, and I can't speak for those agencies, but those could be examples of where if you're not careful, you wind up in places you don't really want to be.
So here's the takeaway from this segment. Long Beach has the lowest rates of any of the large cities in the state of California and has the 9th lowest rates of the 50 largest cities in America. Well done.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, and we'll be back with more of our show after these messages. Welcome back. Continuing our conversation with Kevin Wattier, General Manager of Long Beach Water. And Kevin, I know you take a lot of pride in your infrastructure here. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that and why it's so important.
Well, you know, the underground infrastructure often gets forgotten, you know, and of course,
out of sight,
out of mind. And I'm real proud, and this has really been the tradition or history of the Long Beach Water Department long before I was here, was to not do that, to take good care of it, to make sure that, you know, I always remember the old Fram oil filter commercial, you can pay me now or pay me later. You know, if you ignore that old infrastructure and it starts to break, it costs, you know, many, many more times to fix it after it breaks. So we have a very progressive infrastructure program on both our water system and our sewer system. We're spending a lot of money every year, but as Anatole talked about, our rates are very competitive, but we're spending a lot of money every year rehabilitating those old water lines. You know, we've had some old lines that are as much as 100 years old. We've been replacing those. And we're really, really proud. It's going very well. Our main breaks, which is our main metric that we use to see how we're doing, is down by 75 or 80% from what it was 15 or 20 years ago. So we're just progressively, it's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. It never stops, but it's really...
And that's great, because a lot of cities, with regard to infrastructure, let roads deteriorate, other things, and then it is pay me later because accidents happen and problems occur. And it's kind of tempting to take the money out of maintenance and capital maintenance and put it somewhere else, but there's a big cost.
It's a big part of our budget every year, again, is to fix those old water lines, fix those old sewer lines, and make sure that we don't do that.
And let's just touch briefly on the groundwater storage. Okay. We talked about it earlier, but Long Beach is blessed by having a lot of aquifers.
Yeah, we underlie one of the largest groundwater aquifers of any urban area in California. There's big ones, you know, in rural areas, but as far as the urban area, we're very fortunate we overlie what's called the Central Groundwater Basin, which runs from Long Beach up to the San Gabriel Mountains, or San Gabriel Basin. And so we get about 60% of our water from that aquifer. And you know, what happened was after World War II, everybody was pumping like crazy, and so they came in and did what they call adjudicate, or a court order was placed that limited each city's extraction, how much you could take out of it every year. But one of the things that wasn't done back then was to set forth a set of rules as to manage the vacant storage down there. There's a huge reservoir down there that could be used better to store water in wet years so we can use it in dry years, and that was overlooked back in the 60s.
And that's being litigated now.
So, so we're in court now trying to set up the set of rules so that we can manage it better as a reservoir.
And one consultant said if we can resolve this and set up rules, it could be a savings of up to $1 billion over 20 years by using these aquifers.
It's a huge opportunity, and it's environmentally responsible too, because there's really no negative impacts of using it better.
Well, you grew up in South Dakota, not much desert there. What got you turned on to water?
Well, you know, I was always interested in math and science, and I couldn't decide which way to go. It was kind of a choice between being an engineer or a doctor, and I went into engineering. And then as soon as I got into engineering, I immediately figured out that because I really liked science, chemistry and physics
Yes.
and math, I gravitated right away to the environmental water part of the engineering field.
And then you came out to California, and I know you worked for the Metropolitan Water District, the granddaddy down here for over 10 years.
Almost 14 years there, and then I've been here at Long Beach for 11. And I worked for a couple of consulting firms in between. Yeah.
Well, it must be exciting to go to work each day and face the challenges that you do, right, and find ways to keep the rates down and to keep the infrastructure secure.
Yeah, it's always fun. I really enjoy it. I enjoy going to work every day. It's an exciting place. Again, it's a culture that's unique. I mean, I think I really enjoy the culture. It's a culture of investing. We don't have much debt at all. We always like to pay for things out of current revenues, so we're not incurring a bunch of debt. So it's a great place to work.
This is just a personal observation, but as we said earlier, Long Beach Water is recognized throughout the country in the water community as one of the top agencies in America. But I've also noticed that other agencies that are supervised by a commission as opposed to our political folks seem to run very well. And I would include Long Beach Water, of course, Long Beach Transit, another
Sure.
local agency run by a separate commission, run very well. And of course, the Port of Long Beach.
Right.
And maybe it's an accident or maybe not, but it's nice to have the policymakers, in a sense, insulated from politics to be able to make rational decisions.
Well, the city charter was actually amended in 1931 specifically because of what you said. The city decided they wanted a water department that was separate from all the other politics, and they carved it out just that way.
So there's no fighting or shooting over water in town. March 26th. Well, this is the 11th anniversary, literally today,
Yeah.
of your tenure here, and what do you look forward to in the future?
Well, when I look back, I'm really proud of what we did in conservation. I think we're the leader in California in the country in conservation, and I think with what we're doing with Lawn to Garden, we're going to continue to push that envelope, and I'm really excited about that. We spent a lot of time working on seawater desal. That turned out to be still too expensive, but we did a great job looking at that. And then there's a groundwater thing. This is a huge opportunity. Yeah. One of my goals is to get that done. I mean, we're sitting on a tremendous opportunity here.
A gold mine, literally.
Literally a gold mine, to be able to use that aquifer more efficiently for the benefit of our customers, and it's certainly something I want to see that thing get fixed, that we've got the rules in place so we can really use that aquifer as much as possible.
Nice. Okay, we'll be back with the rest of our show after these messages. Long Beach is very fortunate, in my judgment, to have a first-class water department run by Kevin and his first-rate staff. We're the beneficiaries of secure supply, lower rates, and my hat's off to Kevin, to you and your staff.
Thank you,
30
Art.
seconds to say whatever you'd like.
Well, Art, it's interesting. When you look at the options that we have as a water department to provide a reliable, environmentally responsible, cost-effective supply to our customers, there's really it's not even close. Our conservation, from the eyes of the perspective of our customers, is the best thing for us to do. So we've got a great lawn to garden program. We're real excited about it. And so I would just encourage all of our customers, take a look at that program, and please come in and take our money, and let's make Long Beach the leader in conservation.
Take their money, get a nice garden, help with the conservation, and be a good citizen. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Kevin. Anatole, thank you for being with us. And please join us next week for the next edition of Straight Talk. Good night, everyone.
Straight Talk has been brought to you by Southern California Edison, the Press Telegram, and remember, Straight Talk is viewable worldwide 24/7 at straighttalktv.com.